This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices eased slightly during trade on Wednesday but held near their highest levels in 7 weeks, as the market weighed concerns over escalating conflicts against demand worries following an unexpected build in U.S. crude inventories. Brent crude futures eased 17 cents to $85.16 a barrel by 0635 GMT, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 22 cents to $81.35 per barrel. Both benchmarks gained more than $1 in the previous session after a Ukrainian drone strike led to an oil terminal fire at a major Russian port, according to Russian officials and a Ukrainian intelligence source.
Canada's proposed oil and gas emissions cap will prompt companies to cut production rather than invest in costly carbon capture and storage (CCS) technology, according to a report by consultancy Deloitte and released by the Alberta government on Tuesday. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberal government is developing regulations to force Canada's highest polluting sector to cut emissions to 137 million metric tons, 37% below 2022 levels, by 2030. Alberta, Canada's main oil-producing province, and the industry oppose the plan, arguing it is a production cap. Canada's biggest oil producers are counting on CCS for most of their emissions cuts over the next decade.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
President Joe Biden's administration on Tuesday unveiled final rules for new clean energy subsidies in an effort to make jobs and wages in green industries competitive with those in oil and gas. The guidelines for companies seeking to claim tax credits tied to job quality are aimed at delivering on Biden's vision that fighting climate change will create millions of jobs with good pay and benefits. Biden is seeking to tout his economic policies as he competes for votes ahead of his general election rematch in November with former President Donald Trump. The Inflation Reduction Act, signed into law in 2022, provides for an estimated $370 billion in solar, wind and electric vehicle subsidies.
The top U.S. oil and corn industry lobby groups said on Tuesday they were suing President Joe Biden's administration over its plans to slash planet-warming tailpipe emissions from cars and trucks, arguing the regulations will cause economic harm. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency this spring finalized new rules for models of semi-trucks, buses and other heavy-duty vehicles released from 2027 to 2032 in a bid to cut 1 billion ton of greenhouse gas emissions through 2055. It also announced regulations to reduce emissions from cars and other light and medium-duty vehicles in a separate set of standards. The administration projects will mean up to 56% of all car sales will be electric between 2030 and 2032. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology on Wednesday issued new guidelines for its lithium-ion battery industry, aiming to transform, upgrade and promote high-quality development amid rapid expansion in the sector. The guidelines, following a proposal in May, will help firms scale back manufacturing projects that only expand production capacity, while enhancing technology innovation and product quality and trimming output costs, the ministry said. Projects built on farmland and ecological zones would be required to be shut down, or strictly reined in and gradually removed.
Copper prices firmed on Wednesday, supported by ore supply shortages and a soft US dollar, but demand concerns in top consumer China capped further gains. 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange was up 1.1% at $9,777 per metric ton by 0729 GMT, while the most traded July copper contract on the Shanghai Futures Exchange was 0.6% higher at 79,040 yuan, $10,891.85 a ton. Anglo American said on Tuesday copper output at its Los Bronces mine in Chile is expected to fall nearly a third from average historical levels next year as the miner pauses a processing plant for maintenance.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Soft wheat exports from the European Union since the start of the 2023-24 season last July had reached 29.15 million metric tons by June 16, down 5% from a year earlier. data published by the European Commission showed on Tuesday. EU barley exports totaled 5.59 million tons, down 12% from the corresponding period of 2022-23, the data showed. However, the Commission said in a weekly report that export figures for France, the EU's biggest wheat and barley exporter, were incomplete since the beginning of 2024.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.